MMO.
Shooter.
Hey, you got your
MMO. Shooter.
Shooter. MMO.
what? Delicious.
Two great tastes that taste great together.
Okay, I've got to be honest, that intro might not be the most fair comparison. Tarkov isn't an open world game like WoW, and it isn't an arena shooter like COD. But, like a police officer, I needed to do some stereotyping in order to get my point across. That being said, we still get a pretty diverse selection of maps, and more are coming. Most of them are pretty big, and you never really know what you're going to get once you get inside. You've got a huge patch of woods you can go into if you want to see how bad you actually are at shooting people in the head from half a mile away. There's a giant shopping mall you can visit if the stripes on your tracksuit are starting to look a little bit faded. There's an industrial area complete with warehouses, dormitories, and even a gas station, so you can experience firsthand what it could be like to live in a planned economy, just like back in the good old days. There's a factory if you're ever curious about what it would be like to play Call of Duty without respawns. There's also an army base complete with underground bunker for the absolute lads who have looked at Vietnam War footage and said, hey, getting shot and killed from who knows where looks pretty fun. Great loot though. There's a fancy rehab summer camp, a country village, a swamp, a beach, more woods, and a whole lot of scenic landscapes. I don't even have a snarky remark for this map. It's so big that I'm just happy it doesn't melt my computer whenever I play it. Finally, there's a lab! In case you ever wanted to do nothing but pick shrapnel dingleberries out of your ass and get shot by a bunch of sweaty, try-hard motherfuckers. Let me backtrack real fast though, so I can answer the question you probably asked at the beginning. How can this be an MMO if it's not an open world? Now I'm not going to take the easy cop-out answer here and say, well, PlanetSide 2 is technically an MMO. Let's stick to MMORPGs so I don't have to say I wasted a day learning how to use this video editing software just to keyframe that WoW logo for nothing. To me, the most compelling thing with not just MMOs but RPGs in general is the growth of your character from a nobody into a somebody. Going from being a neat looking at pictures of cat girls in your mom's house to saving the world from an alien parasite that wants to fuck the earth to death. Jenna, that's not really the plot of Chrono Trigger, is it? No matter what the story of an RPG looks like, you start the game weak and become stronger and stronger until you finally walk around clapping monsters that would have eaten you for breakfast at the start of the game. Tarkov has that in two forms. First, you have a whole bunch of skills that level up as you do certain things in the game. Want to bench sick plates? Carry a lot of heavy stuff and throw grenades. Want to be stealthy and shoot dudes from the safety of a bush? Don't do that, you fucking rat. No, I don't care if it's the optimal way to play, there's no honor in it. But you can, by walking slowly and learning how to avoid brushing up against plants and stepping on loud stuff like metal. Pretty much everything you do directly benefits some skill that makes your guy better at doing it. This is my absolute favorite way to implement player character development. You don't get buffer by leveling up, you gotta actually do the thing you want to get better at. This is why I still play Ultima Online, even though that game is old enough to run down to the Piggly Wiggly and buy me a case of Rolling Rock. What I said about learning to avoid bushes and loud surfaces touches on the second way you develop, which is through your own personal experience. Much like Dark Souls, the more you play and expand your knowledge of the game, the better you'll do. That way you go from this to this. Jesus Christ! Plus the super high level players with custom gear kitted out to their gills with fancy gun mods get called thick boys and chads, so I finally have a way to be that second one. So with all that being said, is Tarkov fun to play? Tarkov can be incredibly fun to play, and between the setting, the RPG mechanics, the shooting, the looting, it's one of the most unique shooters I've ever gotten my paws on. But, like many of my favorite games, it has a really steep learning curve and might take some getting used to. This ain't your daddy's shooting game. I'll teach him though. You're gonna die, like, a lot. Dark Souls told us, we just didn't know it was talking about Tarkov. When you die, everything you brought into the raid stays there. If you insured it beforehand, then you might get it back, but if someone finds it and takes it with them, then it's theirs. You're gonna lose your stuff, all the time. You're gonna get frustrated, that's okay. When you first start playing, lots of your deaths will look like this. Others might look like this. If you get a little lucky, some might even look like this. At some point, though, you're going to get into a fight, and you're going to win. And the absolute euphoria that sets in once you realize it's not your body on the ground is a dragon I'll be chasing forever. The more you play, the more this will happen, and before you know it, you're a vodka-addicted gopnik using your newly discovered ankle mobility to squat flat-footed on the patch of concrete outside your apartment. But what do you actually do in Tarkov? Well, the bulk of your time is spent running around looking for loot. It's kind of like living in LA in the 80s, but instead of crack rock, you're looking for bolts.
Y'all tell anybody I'll kill you! I'll kill you!
Your character is a PMC scavenger in the Russian post-apocalypse. There's probably some really good lore behind why this is all happening, but I can't read. You know, you could be a real bitch. Looting is great because you get that loot box / gambling dopamine rush every time you stick your grubby paws into something. Plus, you don't have to pay for it. Every container has a list of items that can spawn in it, and it's different every time. You might find a lighter for a heroin spoon. The doctor will trade you some painkillers for these, and some matches. Now this is fairly weak stuff, but as you become more experienced in the art of stealing, you can eventually start plunging into the depths of full-blown opiate addiction.
Эй, импортный! Fuck off! Понял?
So Forrest Gump the shit out of all those containers, because you
Never know what you're gonna get.
Something that makes this game so compelling to me is this feeling of tension that slowly ratchets up the longer you go on your raid. You'll go in with a certain kit, which might give you a baseline anxiety from the word go, but the goal of every raid is to get out richer than you came in. The longer a raid goes on, the more you pick up and the juicier of a target you become. By the end of it, you are a walking piñata full of treasure. I thought that tree was a guy. Jesus. Fucking paranoid. It's a really unique kind of tension that you can kind of feel at the end of a Dark Zone run in the Division, but the difference is that was just an option on the dinner plate, whereas unforgiving PvP and armor-piercing bullets are the only thing to eat in Tarkov. When you get out, you finally get to savor the fruits of your dangerous lifestyle that aren't stress-related heart complications and drug overdoses. You get to sell your stuff. At first, you can only sell it to the vendors, but once your character hits level 10, oh mama, you get to sell to and buy from other players. That's when the money really starts to roll in. The flea market, as it's called, lets you move away from shooting nothing but Mosins and cheap AKs to finally starting to customize your loadouts. Do you want to spend 300,000 rubles outfitting an M4 with a silencer and enough mods that you can put your vodka on top and fire without spilling? Don't do that, you'll die. Or worse, you could be like me and do it, but then know you'll die, and leave it sitting in your inventory for a month, taking up 12 slots that could be used for car batteries. Whether you go in with a Chernobyl dog eradicator or a gun that would make a Spetsnaz blush, it's important we talk about the shootouts. There's literally only a split second between you walking happily about your day and lying in a pool of your own guts on the ground. If you get a proper fight, you'll have one of the best cat and mouse experiences you're ever likely to see in a shooter. You have to move constantly, ducking in and out of cover until one of you gets got. Throw grenades so you have time to push up or finish off a guy you have pinned. Are you going to shoot him in the face, the body, the legs? Well, that probably depends on the ammo, but I'm not going to get into that except to say there are so many kinds of it that people have literally made spreadsheets to figure them out. The last thing I want to talk about is your base. This is where the magic happens. When you start the game, your home is literally a hole in a sewer somewhere. As you play, you can upgrade it by adding various extremely powerful facilities. These provide a visual representation of how far you've come and where you'll never have to go back to again. They range from little things like lights or a new bed to a front door equipped with a Ring doorbell so you can keep the porch pirates from stealing your Amazon deliveries. There's also stuff like a shooting range where you can test your guns out, a Bitcoin farm which will literally print you money, and arguably the most important upgrade of all, the bathroom. But Dave, I hear you asking, what could possibly be so important about a bathroom? Well, I'll tell you. Tarkov is an incredibly detailed game. There is so much stuff that is simulated in it, and there are a ton of key combinations that let you do crazy things like changing the height of your crouch, changing the speed you walk at, blind firing around or above a corner, or even toggling the light that comes out of your laser attachment. Since there's no key combination to drop my trousers and take a dump in the middle of the battlefield, I can only conclude that we poop at home. I get it, I don't like pooping in public either, but this serves to highlight my point. Nobody wants to live in a septic tank, unless they're a gimp. So if you're not a gimp, and you don't want to poop on the floor, then you're going to build that bathroom. So, should you play Escape from Tarkov?
3, 2, 1.
Absolutely. If you can set aside the expectations Call of Duty gave us all that we'd be racking up headshots and dropping nukes everywhere, then this is one of the most riveting post-apocalypses you're ever likely to find. This game is still in beta, and yes, it has problems, but it's still deeper and more compelling than the other looty-shooties on the market. There's no gear score or legendary items, it's just you, your guns, and substance abuse. I've only barely scratched the surface of what you can actually see in this game, but the incredible attention to detail, the way everything is part of a larger simulation, and the feeling of winning a gunfight, escaping a raid, and making a truckload of money afterward makes this one of the best shooters I've ever played. A steep learning curve, leveling up as a player alongside your character, and developing from a schmuck who barely has anything into an operational operator who does tactical stuff, makes it pretty easy to compare this game to Dark Souls. I guess you could say that Escape from Tarkov is the Hearts of Iron of shooters. Like Hearts of Iron 4 and most Paradox games, Tarkov is so incredibly deep that you can't possibly know everything about it without sinking hundreds of hours in. I've played just over 180 and I'm barely competent. All the Tarkov veterans watching this right now would probably agree that barely scratches the surface of the time they've put in. If you thought I was going to say something like Tarkov is the Dark Souls of shooters, then I'm sad to inform you that you've become a victim of my masturbating.
The fuck?
Also, there's inventory management in this game that makes Diablo 2 look like a baby game for babies. Thanks for watching.